My nephew mocked my son's stutter in front of everyone at his party. All family laughed. I made a decision and kicked them out. That night my mom texted, "You're exaggerating. Until you apologize, stay away from this family." I replied, "Then I will disconnect you from the trust account." And then, my nephew mocked my son's stutter in front of everyone at his birthday party, and the entire family laughed. That was the moment I knew I was done with all of them. Eli had just turned 10. All he wanted was a simple party with family. He still struggles with his speech and big crowds make it worse. He asked for something small, just a few cousins, some pizza and a cake with blue frosting. That's it. So I invited only the people I thought we could trust. My mom, my brother Adam, his wife Lindsay and their son Mason, and my sister Jenna with her twins. It was supposed to be safe. It wasn't. Halfway through the party, I was inside refilling drinks when I heard laughter from the backyard. Not happy, silly laughter, mocking laughter. I walked to the window and saw Mason standing in front of the other kids, twisting his face and mimicking Eli's stutter. Loud. Oh. Repeating phrases Eli had said earlier, turning them into a joke. He was performing like it was a comedy sketch. The other kids were laughing hysterically, and Eli was just standing there, not moving, just staring at the ground. I stepped outside, told Eli to come inside with me, and we walked straight back in. I didn't say anything to the others right away. I waited for them to filter in, finishing their drinks and conversations like nothing had happened. When they were all in the kitchen, I told them the party was over. I told them why. Adam laughed and said I was being dramatic. Jenna said Mason was just playing around. Lindsay smirked and said, "He's sensitive, huh?" My mom rolled her eyes and said I needed to learn how to lighten up. Nobody said a word to Eli. Nobody apologized. I told them all to leave. They acted offended. They did, as if I had overreacted for defending my son on his birthday after he was humiliated in his own backyard. By that evening I thought maybe someone, anyone, might text an apology. But no. Just one message came through from my mother. "You're exaggerating. Until you apologize, stay away from this family." That's when something in me shifted. I stared at her message for a long time. Then I typed back one sentence. "Then I will disconnect you from the trust account." No emoji. No warning. Just facts. She read it. Never replied. She must have thought I was bluffing. She must have forgotten how things were set up after my dad passed. Forgotten that I was the one he trusted to manage everything. That the family's money, hers included, was tied up in a structure she couldn't touch without me. I wasn't bluffing. That text was just the beginning. She protected the ones who laughed at my son. So I decided to make sure none of them would be laughing for long. My mother didn't reply to the message. Not that night, not the next day. That silence told me everything. He thought I was emotional. Overreacting. She assumed I'd cool off, call her crying, apologize to her, like I always did when things got tense in the family. She assumed, like the rest of them, that I was the weak one. The dramatic one. She forgot who I became after Dad died. My father set up the family trust before he got sick. He didn't trust lawyers. He didn't trust Adam. He trusted me. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who held his hand at the end, while the others picked out which parts of the estate they wanted early. And when the lawyers drafted the trust, I was listed as the sole trustee. Everything went through me. Distributions. Control. They all forgot that. Until I reminded them. The next morning I opened my laptop and logged into the account dashboard. My mother's monthly distribution was set to go out on the 1st, like always. I paused it. Not cancelled, paused. Just enough to get her attention. I waited. By noon she had called me 3 times. I didn't pick up. By 3 p.m. she texted. "What is this? You're seriously doing this to me? Grow up, Rachel." That made me smile. I didn't reply. I forwarded the message to our family attorney with one line. "Please confirm I have the legal right to suspend a beneficiary's distribution due to misconduct affecting the trust's representative." He replied 10 minutes later. "Yes, as sole trustee you have full discretion." Good. Because I wasn't stopping there. I opened the accounts again and reviewed Adam's access. My brother. The same man who sat in my kitchen 2 days ago and laughed when his son humiliated mine. His portion of the trust wasn't monthly. He had a business line that had been co-signed through the trust itself. I sent a formal notice to the bank revoking support for his line of credit. Without the trust's backing, he'd have 30 days to refinance or default. I didn't tell him. Next was Jenna. Hers was sneakier. She didn't take distributions directly, but she lived in a home partially paid for by the trust through a property loan. A vacation house my dad bought decades ago and gave her permission to live in, as long as the family stays whole. Those were his words. She never thought I'd challenge that clause. But she broke the family the second she let her twins join in mocking my son and said nothing. So I called the property lawyer and started proceedings to reclaim the house. By midnight, 3 members of my family were about to feel something they never had to deal with before. Consequences. Then I got another text. This one was from Adam. "What the hell is going on with my business account?" I replied, "Should have thought about that before you laughed at a 10-year-old with a speech disorder." No response. But I knew that wouldn't be the end of it. They were about to fight back. They always did. Only this time they didn't realize I'd already made a list. And I wasn't finished. 2 days after I pulled the first thread, Adam showed up at my front door. He didn't call first. Just stood there in his wrinkled button-up, car running in the driveway, looking like someone had told him the world wasn't fair for the very first time. I didn't invite him in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. He opened with, "You've made your point." I didn't respond. I waited. He shifted a little and said his business was going to take a serious hit if he couldn't secure a bridge loan to cover the gap. Then he said it wasn't personal what happened at the party. That kids screw around, and it's not like Mason meant anything by it. I asked him if Mason apologized. He didn't answer. Asked if he did. Still nothing. So I told him the account access wasn't coming back. And unless he made an actual public apology to Eli, not to me, not over text, not some half-effort, then the trust wasn't going to back him. Period. He muttered something under his breath and left. That same afternoon Jenna called. Not to apologize, of course, but to tell me I was making a spectacle and dragging the family through the mud. She said Mom was upset that she hadn't eaten all day, that she was crying. Like that was supposed to make me cave. She also let it slip that Mom had already spoken to a lawyer. That's when I realized they weren't going to own what they did. They were going to go on offense. Try to paint me as the villain. The unstable one. The selfish one. So I did the one thing they were hoping I wouldn't. I brought the receipts. I compiled every text message, every voicemail, every email that proved I had been the one managing the trust responsibly since day one. That every decision I was making now fell well within the legal framework of the trust, which clearly stated that the trustee could limit, suspend, or revoke distributions based on conduct that harms the integrity or unity of the family. My dad's words. His clause. They'd never taken it seriously until now. Then I did one more thing. I sent a letter to the family attorney, the same one we'd all used since Dad passed, and laid it out clearly. The distributions and privileges being revoked were not out of spite, but due to verbal and emotional harm done to a minor beneficiary, my son, during a family event. And unless formal apologies were made and accountability taken, the trust would remain locked. I copied everyone on it, including my mother. It went silent after that for about a week. No texts. No calls. No drive-bys. Then I got an envelope in the mail. From my mom. It wasn't a letter. It was a legal notice. She was officially challenging my role as trustee. She wanted me removed. Claimed I was abusing my position to punish the family over a minor misunderstanding. She'd hired a new attorney, some shark out of state, and the hearing was set for 3 weeks from then. They weren't going to apologize. They were going to war. And that was fine. Because I had just one rule now. If they chose pride over Eli, I'd choose fire over forgiveness. 3 days before the hearing, I received a call from our longtime family attorney, Mr. Lindell. He said calmly, "Just a heads up, your mother's new lawyer is digging. They've subpoenaed account statements, meeting logs, everything from the past 3 years. They're trying to show a pattern of misuse." I said, "Good. Let them look." Because I knew what they'd find. Meticulous notes, scheduled distributions, copies of emails, and signed approvals for every move I'd made. What they didn't know was that Dad had asked me years before he died to keep a private log. His biggest fear wasn't taxes or probate. It was them. The same people who, in his words, would smile at his funeral and then rip each other apart over whatever money was left. He wasn't wrong. I opened the black fireproof box from my closet and pulled out the old USB he'd given me. On it was a folder labeled Contingency. Inside were voice memos, handwritten letters scanned into PDFs, and one notarized addendum. I'd forgotten about the addendum. I opened it. It was dated 6 months before his stroke. In it he'd written, "If Rachel is ever challenged or undermined as trustee, it is my explicit wish that she be given full authority to dissolve the trust entirely if necessary. If they come for her, they lose everything." Signed, witnessed, filed. The date on that document made it ironclad. I didn't tell anyone I had it. Not yet. I wanted to wait. The morning of the hearing I wore all black. Not as a statement. Just because I wanted to. My mother sat at the opposite table in a navy blue suit with pearl earrings, like she was going to church instead of trying to rip financial power out of her daughter's hands. Adam was behind her. Genevieve. I noticed Lindsay wasn't there. Maybe even she had the sense to sit this one out. The judge asked questions. My mom's lawyer spoke like I was some emotionally unstable woman who'd torched a multi-million-dollar trust because someone hurt her feelings. I sat quietly waiting. When it was my turn, I handed over a thick binder of documents. Dates, screenshots, logs, signed directives. The judge took his time flipping through them. Then I handed over the addendum. Her lawyer objected. Said it was new evidence. I said it wasn't new. It was just forgotten. Until she made it necessary. The judge accepted it. He read it carefully. Asked for verification. My attorney had already contacted the notary and had a statement ready. 5 minutes later it was over. The judge ruled I had acted well within my legal rights. And more than that, if I wanted to dissolve the trust, I now had the authority to do it. Entirely. I watched my mother's face collapse when she heard it. She wasn't used to losing. And she definitely wasn't used to losing everything. But I wasn't done. Outside the courthouse, Adam caught up to me. He looked furious. Said I was going to destroy the family's future. Said I was being vindictive. That Dad would have hated what I was doing. I told him that Dad wrote the clause because he knew this moment would come. He saw exactly what they were. And now so had I. That night, I logged in and initiated the paperwork to begin dissolving the trust. I didn't touch a penny of it. I contacted an independent firm and had it all frozen, pending full review. And I made sure every cent that would have gone to my mother, Adam, Jenna, or their kids, every monthly check, every property subsidy, every loan guarantee stopped. Indefinitely. I redirected only one thing. Eli's education fund. I doubled it. And added therapy, housing, and future care locked under his name. Untouchable. Because they may have laughed at him once. But now. They were the ones who had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks after the court hearing, Jenna put her house up for sale. She didn't call me, obviously. But I still have alerts set on the property records. Dad's old lake house, the one she turned into a permanent vacation home, after he passed, even though the agreement was that she'd cover the taxes and maintenance. The trust had been paying most of those bills quietly for years. She never thanked me. I doubt she even remembered it wasn't technically hers. But when the payments stopped, when the county tax notice showed up in her mailbox, suddenly she remembered. She listed the house fast, lower than market value, and moved back into her cramped condo with her kids, who, according to what I heard from a cousin, had been bragging about how they broke Eli at the party. I didn't even flinch reading that. I'd already cut them out of the revised beneficiary structure. Then came Adam. His business, a mid-size construction company with a shaky track record and bloated payroll, started showing signs of strain. I knew because someone anonymously forwarded me the internal email where he told staff there'd be temporary delays in pay. I wasn't surprised. The trust had backed 2 of his equipment loans and carried the line of credit that bridged his quarterly gaps. Without that, banks don't play nice. A week later, I got an alert from the UCC Uniform Commercial Code database. A lien had been filed against his company. Then another. 2 lawsuits followed. Suppliers. Who? And still he never called. Never texted. Just posted passive-aggressive stories online about being stabbed in the back by family. My mother was the last one to fall. She held out longer, probably because she was most removed from the financial reality of her life. She still had her garden, her silver, her social calendar. But her accounts were deeply entangled with the trust. The property she lived in, also partially funded by Dad's estate, had deferred taxes and subsidized upkeep. All that was suspended during the freeze. The letter from the county finally landed. I know because she called me. That was the first time she'd tried since the day she sent that text. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. The voice was different. Not angry, not proud. Just tired. She said she didn't realize how much I'd done behind the scenes. That I was always so capable. She just assumed things would keep working no matter how they treated me. She said she never wanted it to go this far, but she couldn't admit she was wrong in front of everyone. That she felt humiliated. Then she said it. Please don't take everything from me. I listened to that message once. Then again. And I didn't respond. Because here's the truth. She had taken something from me the second she sided with a laughing room over her own grandson. The second she called me dramatic instead of turning to a child and saying, I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened to you. Eli never asked me to do any of this. He never even knew the full story. I made sure of it. He just kept going. Therapy. Reading. Playing. Healing. And one day about a month after the party, he came into the kitchen, looked at me and said clearly and slowly, do you want to help me with my science project? No stutter. No hesitation. Just confidence. And I realized then they lost more than money. They lost him. 3 months after the party, my mother sent a letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. An actual handwritten letter, addressed to me, with slightly shaky cursive that looked older than I remembered her being. I let it sit on the table for 2 days before I opened it. Not because I was scared, I just wanted to be sure I wouldn't fall for whatever version of her was inside that envelope. The letter started with a memory. She wrote about the time Eli was 4 and tried to say spaghetti, but kept saying pischetti, and how we all laughed but he didn't, and how she'd forgotten about that until now. She wrote that she hadn't realized how many little moments like that she'd brushed off. Then she wrote something I didn't expect. She said she'd mortgaged her house. She said Adam wasn't speaking to her anymore because he blames her for losing everything. Jenna's on medication for anxiety, and the family group chat hasn't been active in weeks. She said she sits on her porch some nights and wonders how it all went so wrong. Then the part that really stayed with me. It didn't feel like I was doing anything cruel in that moment. That's what scares me. Because now I look back and wonder how many other moments I stood on the wrong side of something and didn't even feel it. She ended the letter by saying she missed Eli. That she wished she had protected him. That if I decided never to speak to her again, she'd understand. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. I didn't cry. I didn't feel satisfied either. Just finished. Because for once, someone in that family understood that the damage wasn't about money or silence or being left out of a trust. It was about watching a 10-year-old boy realize that the people clapping at his birthday were the same people laughing behind his back. And no amount of guilt or apology or silver earrings could undo that moment. I didn't call her. I didn't respond. Instead, I made a new account. Not a trust. Something smaller, quieter. Just mine and Eli's. I named it after something he once told me in the car after a therapy session. Sometimes I talk slow, but I still have things to say. That's the name of the account. That's our future. And as for the rest of them, they lost access to Eli, to me, and to the wealth they never truly appreciated. And the worst part for them wasn't the frozen accounts or the court rulings or the liens. It was knowing that the one person they thought they could laugh off was the one person holding every single key.